A guy who swore off studying forever gets reincarnated, straight into the most prestigious magic academy in the entire empire. That alone would break most people. But the real problem isn't the skeleton director who launches carriages into the air on day one, or the professor who literally reads your mana like a sea threatening to drown you. The real problem is 3 armed students cornering him alone at night, and the one thing standing between him and disaster is a trick he was never supposed to use yet. Li-Han exhales hard, closes his eyes for a second. Then his traveling companion points ahead. They're almost there. The gates come into view, and the old man's voice cuts through. This is the best Imperial Academy in the Empire. Li-Han stares at the massive tower rising in front of them, and something in him twists. He thought he'd become some washed-up knight, living out his days in obscurity. But here he is, honored to be an escort. The old man smiles, eyes closed, saying he's had the privilege of watching Li-Han grow into the young man he is today, and now he's entering this place. Li-Han just stays quiet, that look on his face saying more than words could. He's staring ahead, distrust written all over him, and the narrator drops the truth. In the end, he couldn't escape it. Even in this life, he's tied to learning again. Cut to a glass building with a graduation banner. Students everywhere, holding flowers and diplomas. One guy hugs the protagonist. Well, the protagonist from his past life, grinning wide, saying they're finally free. They survived their teachers, and it feels like a miracle. In his mind, a professor appears, that same terrifying smile, inviting him to join a hiking club that meets every weekend. He'd stammered back then, saying he wasn't worthy of such an honorable club. Another memory, a stack of papers slammed in front of him, someone asking if he'd finish by evening. The bespectacled version of himself, looking half dead, had said he could, knowing full well he wouldn't sleep that night. His friends sitting there eating, looking at him with disgust, saying they haven't eaten anything else in days. Then the same friends got an arm around his shoulders, horrified, saying every student goes through this, but he's on another level. They're walking side by side, and the hero says he's just doing everything he can. His friend shakes his head. He doesn't even realize how incredible he is. The guy starts taking off his hat, smiling, saying this kind of life suits him. Why not get a second degree? The protagonist's face goes pale, saying that's way too much. He straightens his collar, and the narrator's voice returns. He doesn't care how it looks from the outside. It's just his job. He's never going to study anywhere else again. He's going to live for himself, and he's never setting foot near another educational institution. That's the promise. Then, chaos. A truck driver's yanking the wheel, slamming the handbrake, eyes wide with panic. His brakes failed. The newly minted graduate turns, sees the truck barreling toward him, someone screaming at him to move. He just freezes. His hat falls to the ground in slow motion, and the narrator's voice is cold. His certificate and diploma are useless pieces of paper now. But his decision, that stays the same. Even after reincarnation. A baby's eyes snap open. He's staring at himself, tiny hands, toys around him. He frowns. He remembers everything. Li-Han starts taking it all in. He was born as the 3rd son of the Wardens, one of the Empire's most powerful magical houses. Is this real? He's been reborn in another world as a nobleman, 3rd son of a rich and powerful family. His eyes well up, and he looks skyward, hands clasped like he's praying. He's been rewarded for all his suffering in his past life. This is his chance for a peaceful life. He's grinning, practically glowing. The narrator cuts in. He was wildly mistaken. Flash forward. He's lagging behind his older brothers, staring at them, confused. The narrator explains the first rule of their house. The firstborn inherits everything. All other children have to find their own way in life. Li-Han's face goes pale. This can't be happening. The sound of wooden swords clashing fills the air. An old man's training a boy, saying he can't believe the kid asked to learn the sword. The boy, Li-Han, says he thought it'd be useful, and there's nothing else to do anyway. The family supports them in all their endeavors, which sounds nice until you realize what that means. An older relative moves a basin aside, asking what if he wanted to follow a different path, but Li-Han cuts him off. He's going to become a magician. That's the best option. The gray-haired man looks at him calmly, asking again. Li Han tenses. Maybe that answer's too unambitious? But then the teacher grabs him by the shoulders, shouting that he admires his intelligence. Eyes welling with tears, the bearded man says most noble children are unreasonably ambitious from a young age. But Li Han's already planning a prudent future. Li Han forces an awkward smile, thinking to himself that anyone who's been through postgraduate studies can't help but be a realist. He pictures it all. Knights, nobles, adventurer guilds, the imperial family. And experienced magicians always welcome. He imagines the academy, the name popping into his head. He's standing in front of the gate holding a horse, telling himself he just needs to be patient for a few years. His escort introduces his father, saying the patriarch noticed his talent. He's sure Li Han will succeed. Li Han looks at him with a dry expression, exhaling, saying he'll believe that considering his father forbade him from practicing magic because it's too dangerous for children. Thanks for that. The old man dismounts, taking the reins, saying he's not allowed to go further with the horses. Li Han notices a carriage passing by. One after another, they pull up to the entrance. Voices shout that the Duke's daughter's here, the prince is here, and Li Han's eyes widen. Too many people. He's staring at the noble guards, saying they're going too far. He sees the princess's protection, and he's got no words. The guy looks ahead, anxious, saying Eingrad's a place you're supposed to enter alone. Then someone from behind says this is all wrong. A guy named Heclash is staring at his hands, shaking. Li Han asks if he's okay. He clenches his teeth, frowning, saying he can't fall asleep without his servants. Li Han looks concerned but stays quiet. Then the guy storms up to an employee, ranting about how his servants are like his arms and legs. Cutting them off is the same as cutting off his limbs. He asks if Li Han agrees, and Li Han, confused, just goes along with it. The impudent guy then shouts that in the name of equality, they even accept slaves, and he'll write a complaint on behalf of his family. Li Han just watches, curious what they'll say. Then the guy's suddenly wrapped in a spell. He stumbles back, repeating that he repents. Li Han backs away, realizing it's mind manipulation magic. His eyes narrow. They can use magic even against nobles' children? Does that mean the rumors are true? He sees the door open, green smoke pouring out. One rumor said there are a lot of monsters here, and if you die, they bury you in the mountains. The doors swing open, heavy energy rushing out, and a voice greets them and insults them. Li Han covers his face, frowning. The magical pressure's intense. He peeks through his hands, realizing who the rumors were about. The director. He glances around. Everyone's frozen from the tension. Suddenly the pressure increases. The voice says it seems they were told to enter one by one, then says it doesn't matter. Horses and carts with belongings go flying, and the director continues, even if they don't want to obey the rules, he'll make them. Nobles break into hysterics, crying about their things, asking who'll carry out his orders if the servants are gone. Everyone turns toward the entrance when they're asked why they're standing there like fools. A voice tells them to carry their carcasses inside and enter. Above the gate, a huge skull orders them to enter. It gets even bigger, shouting for them to carry out the order faster. Boom! The door slams shut. It's the hero's first day at the greatest academy in the Empire. The sun's shining softly on the massive towers. He's got a bad feeling. The students walk slowly down the corridor, complaining about the insults despite their status. Suddenly, someone calls out from behind. Li Han turns, asking who it is. A cute girl, Yoner, introduces herself, saying her family's also a house of magicians. He steps closer, saying it's nice to meet her, then asks how he can help. She points to the side. His Highness wants to see him. Li Han turns, nods, and addresses the Prince of the Empire. The blonde's waving his hand actively. Li Han thinks this is a place for development and socializing. The prince is smiling like an idiot, and Li Han's thinking this is where you build connections on the first day. He's wary though, calling him Your Highness feels excessive. The Emperor has over 100 children. He imagines the king with the heir, realizing even in the imperial family, the throne only passes to the firstborn. Most likely the Emperor doesn't support his kids at all, Their lives might be worse than his. He pictures aristocrats surrounding the fair-haired prince, wondering why Yoner's acting like this. She approaches with a smile, asking if he wants to come with her. Li-han hears whispers behind him. Why is she helping some random prince? They shake hands, and Li-han, thinking it's better not to make enemies, says there's nothing wrong with making friends. The redhead smiles, thanking him, saying she feels relieved he's the first to agree. Then Li-han realizes something with horror. He grabs his head while she runs off. Gyando's smiling broadly. He's the 97th prince, though rumors say he might be 101. But he's confident in his position. Li-han looks around, thinking wanting to be in the top 100 is understandable. He turns, seeing displeasure. Someone's asking if they're listening. A green-eyed guy with a displeased look insults him, saying the scoundrel rejected his offer. How dare he? The yellow-eyed one puts his hands on his hips, saying maybe he just didn't know he had a majestic origin. He asks again. Li-han, looking at his satisfied face, is disappointed. This guy's not only immature but also an idiot. He says, majestic means a person of a prestigious class, and the prince points to himself, saying that's definitely about him. Suddenly the guy turns, frowning, saying they still refused him and now they're sucking up to Aiden Art. It's humiliating. People surround a white-haired girl. The blue-eyed girl's shining with beauty, the 44th princess, or something like that. Li-han puts a fist to his face, thinking she's elegant, as befits a member of the imperial family. Of course people are drawn to her. And some are her complete opposite. He can't close his mouth. The blonde steps closer, asking if Li-han will take care of her because he's tall and well-built. Li-han says majestic people don't mock others. The green-eyed guy pouts, saying he's not asking to mock her, just teach her a little lesson, but Li-han cuts him off, saying majestic people don't act like that. Think about it. Ganando puts his hands behind his head, asking anxiously what he should do. Li-han says calmly he needs to forgive her, but if he doesn't want to, he can challenge her to a duel. The low-ranking prince imagines a battle and gets scared, speechless. He wipes his nose with a proud look, saying in a trembling voice they don't need to go that far. He forgives them, as befits a majestic prince. Yoner notices Li-han ruffling his hair, calling him a good boy. She walks up, making him turn, saying he's amazing. She waves her hand in front of his face, saying he curbed Ganando's temper. Even she, his relative, couldn't do that. Li-han says, amazing, is too strong. He turns to her, saying he understands their relatives, and asks why she's trying so hard for him. As she's about to answer, light interrupts her. A green flash. A skeleton-headed figure appears, asking arrogantly if they enjoyed their conversations, calling them iron heads. One guy points up, saying with displeasure that's the lich they saw at the gate. Li-han imagines a mage with a skull, thinking this creature's the result of the great mage's desire to defeat death. He lowers his eyes, thinking the director's state is unthinkable. The skull's mouth opens, asking why they're called iron heads. The princess raises her hand, saying it's because this year's freshman class symbol is steel. She's told that's phenomenal, 10 points to their dorm. She smiles, asking if there's a dorm evaluation system. But then she's confused when told it's not so. If they want to become mages, they should learn to distinguish truth from lies. The lich raises several steel objects, saying the symbol of this year's freshman is steel, a material that's completely dependent on processing, a valuable resource that can be used in many ways. The skull flies closer, saying this material's ideal for beginners. Everyone's interested. But then the director points at them, laughing loudly, saying they were fooled again. The real reason. They don't have an ounce of knowledge in their heads. Everyone's shocked. Li-han turns, thinking despite how he treats them, they can't object. Seeing the heavy flow of energy, he realizes something. Looking at the scale, he thinks in a place with such strong magical energy, it's hard to even move. He massages his shoulder, thinking he's already feeling better. He's getting used to it. The lich raises an eyebrow, seeing how easily Li-han's moving, saying he was too harsh on those who found the strength to come here. Li-han turns away, reflected in his eyes, and the lich thinks about how he can move with such dense mana. The doors open again. He asks everyone to look at the door on the left. bright light visible through the crack. When the gate finally opens, a luxurious hall full of delicious food appears. Everyone rushes to the table. Li-Han slows down, doubting, while the leader says to enjoy the holiday and relax after a long trip. The prince sits next to a random guy, happy. White bread spread with butter, thick slices of cheese. A plump chicken greased with vegetable oil, spices, flour, boiled in wine for amazing taste. A casserole covered with bechamel sauce. The main dish, fresh fish cooked on coals in an oriental style. Ganando's eating with a smile, thanking them for the treat. Then, from the pressure of a fork, the food vanishes. Everything around them disappears instantly. No one understands. Li-Han looks up, alarmed, thinking about what he's heard. When you become a lich, you lose something. He's sure this one lost a lot. The director keeps mocking, saying they were caught again, telling them to pull themselves together. Li-Han watches him closely. Bone throws out a bunch of things, saying this academy's the birthplace of magicians, and the biggest push for a developing magician is thirst. Bread, sticks, clothes, rice fly at the aristocrats. The redhead lifts her dress. The director says these are their clothes and food. Ganando looks at the rice in horror, dumbfounded. When he tries to object, the director's gaze locks onto him, saying that's the reaction he expected. Everyone's horrified after the words that if they don't like the dinner, they need to learn magic and create delicious food themselves. If they don't like the clothes and stick, they need to use magic and get everything themselves. The director opens his jaw, releasing mana, shouting these are the rules of his academy. The boys start talking to each other, planning to ask their families for things. The director points a finger, saying he's been waiting for this. He imagines the guards at the entrance. First-year students aren't allowed to leave. Then he imagines second years refusing first years, saying asking anything from older students is prohibited. He dissolves, saying everyone's free. Li-Han watches, hearing the last words wishing them luck, hoping they'll become great wizards. Li-Han puts 2 fingers to his forehead, wondering if it's true there are crazy teachers in every place. He knows such people best of all. He remembers his teacher mixed with the new director, thinking his professor from his past life had the same gleam in his eyes, the gleam of madness. He puts his hand to his chin, staying quiet, while his green-eyed friend says in despair he can't believe it. He turns away, asking how they dared treat him like that. Li-Han says the liches probably better than the professor. Ganando picks up the bread and clothes, wondering how they can live in such terrible conditions. Li-Han looks ahead with a hopeful expression, saying they not only provided food but also clothes. It's definitely better here. But he doesn't understand what's going on. He remembers his childhood, thinking little's known about liches in noble society because they're focused only on magic and have no contact with other people. He puts a finger to his chin, thinking because of this, misconceptions about his family only grew. The prince thinks with horror even his servants lived in better conditions, wondering what kind of life Li-Han had. He puts his hand on his cheek, saying Li-Han can stay in his mansion. Li-Han agrees. They pass under beautiful monuments, heading to the dormitory. Li-Han imagines a child's hand taken by an aristocrat's, thinking Ein Grad accepts students regardless of status, the main thing's talent. But to prevent strife, the dormitory's divided into 4 towers by origin. He imagines a huge dragon, thinking the Tower of the Proud Dragon. Entrance available only to those from noble families. Only honorable nobles like the wardens or the imperial family enter here. He imagines a huge bird against priests, thinking the Tower of the Unquenchable Phoenix, only for those dedicated to the sacred flame. Only priests from different faiths enter. A huge tiger with knights pops into his head, the Tower of the Thunder White Tiger, only for those not weak in spirit. Children from knightly families. Knights and wizards, people ready to walk 2 paths. He imagines a huge turtle with commoners in the background, the Tower of the All-Seeing Black Turtle, including only those with endless patience. The most diverse dormitory. Commoners, slaves, beggars, merchants, lower nobility. He imagines outcasts, thinking residents of other dorms ignore them because of their low status. Most newcomers are intimidated. He imagines 3 downtrodden people, thinking there are always exceptions. While they stare at him like a monster, discussing why he's staring like that, how it seems like they're being looked down upon. The narrator says Li-han considers them ideal business partners. He puts his hand to his chin, thinking with a soft smile he needs to make friends with them. The best way to earn money's business, and to become a pro, you need experience. One person intervenes, wondering how it's possible to accept such nobodies. A pompous nobleman surrounded by sycophants folds his arms, asking why they're looking at him like that. Is he wrong? Leon steps forward, thinking how dare he be rude to his potential business partners, pointing out the only worthless one here's that one. He stretches his hand, saying with a blessed look they abandoned everything they had. Heavenly light surrounds this benefactor. He asks if they forgot this, then thinks why he stuck his nose into his future partners. Everyone becomes embarrassed, remembering his house, surprised by the reaction. Li-han clenches his fist, smiling, thinking it's good, the atmosphere's better now. They just need to make friends. The commoners become afraid, learning his last name, deciding not to look him in the eye. It's too dangerous. Li-han turns pale, hearing rumors about his house. Their patriarch's a dragon, they have spirit bloodline. He stretches his hand, asking in horror what kind of reaction this is. The redhead nods, thinking he's undoubtedly a man of a great family. Li-han turns, anxiously asking if he really looks so scary. She says no, he has the aura of a worthy aristocrat. But he doesn't yet know about his family's bad reputation. Ganando returns, waving his fist with displeasure, asking how they could leave him alone. They apologize. Li-han slowly walks after his friend, reminding her of their recent dialogue. She realizes they were talking about why she's looking after him. The blue-eyed girl looks back, saying with a sweet look the reasons his mother. He's surprised. Long ago, in a huge palace, Yoners told not to run at a banquet. The baby plays around, pulling her eye, sticking out her tongue. Suddenly, collision. The girl spills a drink on a great person's dress. She sits on the floor in horror, thinking this is the Empress's dress. This is the end for her family. Even her young age isn't an excuse. But then someone lifts her, saying there's nothing to worry about. With a smile, the beauty lifts the child, saying everyone's wrong. Is she okay? The blue-eyed cutie folds her hands with tears, but then Li-han's assumptions are cut off. The redhead shows a ring on her fingers, saying she's simply very rich. Li-han looks at her with horror while she talks about giving money for being friends with him. A lot of it. Li-han lowers his head anxiously, saying if that's so, walking along the forest path, he thinks he definitely needs to be friends with the prince. The blonde's tired. Li-han looks around, saying it's decent here, just an academy, but there's a lake, forest, mountains. He looks away, remembering the lich, thinking he wasn't joking when he said they should do everything themselves. He looks at his peers, wondering if they can walk here and reach the Blue Dragon Tower. Li-han approaches his friend, asking what happened. She says she doesn't know, this is supposed to be their dorm. Li-han calmly looks ahead, trying to find out. But then something surprises him. He steps back, screaming like everyone else. They're standing in front of a tall tower. They're wondering with displeasure what kind of pathetic building this is. The prince pouts, hands on hips, saying even his servants' estates were bigger. Are they really settling them here? Li-han thinks it'll be cramped. They slowly climb the stairs. The blonde regretfully says he's becoming more and more disappointed. Suddenly they stop. The ground under Li-han's feet disappears. He starts falling. He looks around, asking where everyone disappeared, wondering what happened. Suddenly he's stopped, attracted, greeted, asked where he's going. He's left alone in the void. Li-han looks up, thinking he understands. He puts his hand on his chest, thinking with slight anxiety this is expected from a magic academy. The dormitory's a witch's tower. He asks where he can go. A huge energy gathers, saying he's catching on quickly. A portal to the room and hall appears. The creature says now the only places he can go are his personal room and a special steel lounge for first years. Li-han points forward, asking if there are other places. He's told it's true. For some, it'd be enough to just know the name, while to get to others, he'd have to try. The outline of a skeleton's head appears, saying he can't go there yet. Li-han asks to be sent to his private room, noticing the unreasonable severity. Energy runs down his legs. They agree. He turns, smiling when welcomed to the academy. Taking a book in his hands, he reads about his new place. He's extremely focused, saying besides main subjects, they can choose disciplines at will. The final decision can be made after a trial month. Seeing another page with the definition of magicians, he notices the director's name is Gonchang ASU. He closes the book, saying it's not as difficult as he thought. Much easier than grad school. Looking around, he says with a smile the room has everything he needs. Li Han's the only one who thinks so, the others are confused. He looks away with a smile, thinking everything's clear. Where are the others signing up? In the restroom, he meets the redhead. She looks at him with a smile, saying she wants to study alchemy. She imagines herself in a picture, saying she's always been interested. Her dreams to open a workshop and supply products to the imperial castle. He says it sounds profitable. The blue-eyed one with a shining, cunning look asks if he wants to work with her. He says alchemy's a difficult business, asks to let him think about it. He imagines the bloody potion money, thinking the empire's alchemical industries very developed. From spreading bad rumors about competitors to monopolizing potion ingredients, countless guilds use any means to fight for market share. Two people fighting on a scale pop into his mind. He thinks a stable niche might be the best solution. He points at himself, asking what subjects he'll take. He looks away, thinking he wants something simple so it's easier to get good grades. He imagines himself in a portrait, thinking his priority goals to become an imperial officer. In other words, a civil servant. The most important things: academic performance and qualifications. Looking at his girlfriend's satisfied face, he thinks he's sure such an ardent girl would be disappointed with his answer. He puts his hand to his chin while the anxious prince runs toward them, saying he's thinking of trying everything during this month, then choosing. You can't make important decisions frivolously. The green-eyed man grabs his heart in horror, screaming his room's been robbed. There's absolutely nothing there. His friends turn with stony faces, staying silent. The tower stands in the night. He's still trying to convince them there was a thief. Reading the book the next day, Leon finds the basics of magic. He's not distracted, thinking this is the main subject for first years. Each dorm has its own schedule. He slams the book shut, noticing one button. He notices everyone else looks like zombies unlike him, wondering what's wrong. Yoner, looking away with a negative look, says they want to eat and sleep on normal beds. These annoying rags aren't even worthy of words. The handsome man looks at them with sympathy, wondering if it's really that hard because compared to his past life. In his past life, the clock showed 10 o'clock. He wondered if he was seeing things. He turned to his colleague, worriedly saying there's no lunch break in the schedule. Someone handed him an energy bar, saying it's his daily ration, eat it as soon as possible. The hero burned him with his gaze. He covered his face with his hand, asking him not to look like that. He's forced to live like that too. He was happy after the words a feast awaited after the end. Said he'd kill him if he talked about ramen. Li Han sadly leaned over the table while he was happy it wasn't ramen but a burger, even triangular kimbap. In the new world, he smiled while everyone else was dying, thinking it's definitely better here. The boys approach the door, wondering if this is a lecture hall. A dark-haired girl walks in with relief, saying she's glad the office is on the first floor. They suffer a wild shock. Everyone screams, jumping back, asking what it is. Is this really a lecture hall? A blue leg appears. A cute face with a fong. A beauty with long ears looks at them. They scream it's a troll. The boy imagines a huge monster, thinking these creatures are fierce, dangerous, with a bad reputation even among protected nobles. Li Han becomes alarmed, wondering what a well-dressed troll's doing in a lecture hall. She says she's greeting them, asking them to sit down. They exchange glances. She continues persuading them. Everyone sits. Li Han watches with concern. She says it's nice to meet them, tells them her name and race. The students are scared. She continues, saying she understands their fear but they can't be afraid. She puts her hand on her chest with a smile, saying she doesn't eat people. Then the half-human licks her lips. Gracia brings her hand to her chin, saying with desire this is until she gets hungry. The prince foams at the mouth. Li-Han tenses with anxiety, thinking she'll eat them as soon as she feels hungry. She apologizes anxiously, explaining it's a joke, suggesting starting the lecture. She creates light in her hand, saying most present have never used magic because it's dangerous. Only adults can. She squeezes her hand, saying they're all now seeds who received the title of Steel. The purpose of this practice is to enlighten them in magic, help them find an inclination toward a certain type. The redhead listens with a sweet look. She continues, saying the path of a magician's a difficult, harsh journey. She hopes to become their guide. The trio breathes a sigh of relief, imagining the Lich, thinking not all professors here are as crazy as the director. The blue-skinned one raises her wand, suggesting starting with the basics. What is magic? Aidenart raises her hand, saying it's the desire of a wizard to change the world with his will. She's told it's a good answer. The teacher imagines a mage in front of a mentor, saying it's the use of magical energy, mana, as a fundamental force to change the world. Everyone who entered the academy's talented enough to feel it. She imagines a wizard waving a wand, saying to use magic, they have to go beyond that. Call upon mana at will, gracefully weave it together. Only then will magic be born. The half-troll places her hand on her chest, saying it's usually believed you have to cast a spell or make a movement, but what's truly important's the will. Don't forget that. Bright sunlight pours through the windows. She continues, saying she thinks a little practice wouldn't hurt. Everyone stand up. Li-Han gets to work when asked to raise his wand and gather mana, thinking about finally trying his hand at the craft. Energy gathers at the tip. The redhead tries releasing a spark while she talks about imagining light while collecting mana. Yoner tenses, thinking how hard it is, understanding how to control magical energy. She imagines herself on horseback, thinking it's like controlling a madly running horse. If she loses control for even a second, it'll all be over. Gracia raises her wand, closing her eyes, suggesting while concentrating so the magic won't dissipate, they need to cast a spell. She raises a bright spark, using light. The entire room's illuminated. Students cover their faces while she talks about how they can say anything that comes to mind. Keep in mind the shorter the spell, the easier to maintain. Li-Han looks away, putting everything in order, thinking he got the gist. Particles and mana gather on his wand. The light blinds him. He thinks understanding alone won't be enough. The princess drops her wand, closes her eye. The redhead simply closes her eyes. The young prince is frightened, screaming, asking what it is, wondering how mana moved on its own. He closes his eyes sharply. The half-troll takes the wand away, uses magic. Wings appear behind the green-eyed man's back, putting him back in place. She says if you lose control, you can harm others. But as long as there's a professor nearby who can stop them, they can't be afraid to train. The beauty picks up the wand, smiling, saying not to worry if they have mana left. They can try again. During the second attempt, 2/3 of students continue practicing. The rest give up. Gracia watches with a smile, thinking light's the simplest spell, but it usually takes about a month to learn. Raising her wand, she thinks there's something students should figure out themselves, so she won't tell them anything. Try again. Everyone's wildly exhausted. After each attempt, the number reduces. After the 5th attempt, only one student's left. One raises his hand. Li-Han's in perfect condition, asking if he should continue. It seems only he's left. He calmly waits. The half-troll watches, thinking they're already on the 7th attempt. Even outstanding first years run out of mana on the 5th. She imagines a master from the east, thinking magical energy, they call it ki. Scientists who love showing off call it ether. Stubborn priests like calling it divine energy. This force with many names is the source of magical power. She imagines a guy with an empty bucket, thinking due to mana costs of casting spells, novice mages often face a lack of magical energy. Looking at Li-Han, she thinks he's fine despite this being the 7th attempt. She asks his name. He says his name. She thinks he didn't say his family, earned the professor's favor by demonstrating the principle of equality. The blue-skinned girl asks him to come forward with a smile, thinking she recognized him. She extends her palm, asking for his hand. He fulfills the request with caution. Something strikes her. She feels a large stream of water. It's as if waves are enveloping her. It seems she drowned in the whole sea. Many streams and currents around her. Gracie awakes when she's loudly called. Li-han looks concerned, asking if there's a problem. She, looking tired and terrified, stutters there's nothing wrong, suggests going back to class. During this, she realized something. The prince turns to his bored friend, whispering to save him. What if the professor eats him? She quietly suggests he keep quiet. The blue-skinned girl puts her hand on the student's shoulder, smiling, asking him to come by after class. He agrees. The princess is doubtful. The teacher says she's sure everyone felt how quickly their energy ran out. No need to worry. As they practice, the amount of mana will increase, consumption will decrease. The pale Ganando stands with a pale face when told sometimes a highly motivated student loses control and gets injured. They need to be careful. The half-human pulls her hand away, saying she also doesn't need students. He suddenly shrinks, apologizes. The academy's under the light sun. Their lesson ends. Voices behind the closed door. Li-han approaches the professor, asking what happened. She wanted to talk. She turns, saying she's going to be frank. He perks up, learning the director already spoke about him. He imagines the skeleton-headed man, thinking she's talking about this madman. She immediately calms him, holding out her hand, asking him not to worry. She smiles softly, saying although the director looks crazy, he's a good person. The huge head leans over the table with the rest of the professors. Students don't know this, but the director's very attentive. Every year he tells the rest of the staff about new students. Looking at a fanged horned one, he says they need to be careful with this criminal. He's quite capable of burning down the dorm 3 times. With this half-demon, be careful with divine magic. Skull puts his hand to his chin, looking up, saying about Li-han he's very stupid. Gracia looks surprised, thinking it would seem this doesn't mean anything. But in the East, there's a famous proverb, a sage is stupid only on the outside, and only a stupid view of the world borders on wisdom. Lowering her eyes, she imagines Li-han, thinking about what ASU's trying to say. He sees a lot of good in him. She becomes interested in what he is. Imagining the guy again, she thinks what she's waiting for with impatience. He's standing in front of her, calling out again. She looks at him with anxiety, thinking what she can't say about this. Taking her hand away, the half-troll says she called him because he has a huge amount of mana. Li-han rubs his head, asking again, thinking he's glad about it, wondering if this is all he's been called for. He thinks he'll need to increase the load during training. The beauty distracts him, saying his mana's not just great. He looks illuminated after the words, it's impossible to even imagine the limit of his strength. He looks at her anxiously, staying silent, thinking mana's one of the indicators of a magician's talent. He imagines a circle and stones, thinking if it's not enough, this can be corrected, albeit with difficulty. A large amount of mana speaks of complete freedom of action. He looks at his hands with a smile and embarrassment, thinking this promises great talent. He clenches his fists, looking ahead with confidence. If this is true, his future's simply wonderful. But then Gracia looks at him with regret, saying she's very sorry. He wakes from his thoughts, leaning over, asking again, asking if this is something good. She takes a glass, saying it is, but he has too much of it. Holding out the vessel, she says she'll compare magical energy to the water in this glass. It's easy to control. But there's one catch. He imagines a huge stream of water surrounding him when she says, for example, he'd need to cope with a large volume, the sea. Would it be difficult? Li-han's incredibly worried. He imagines his peers in class, thinking how incredibly difficult it is to control such a large amount of mana, the main source of energy. He falls to his knees, grabs his head. She climbs onto the table. The blue-skinned girl puts a bracelet on his hand. He asks what it's for. Li-han's happy when told this item absorbs mana, will help for the first time. He thanks her, asking if there'll be any more problems. His joy disappears after the words, if everything was so simple, she wouldn't have called him. She puts her hand to her chin, calmly saying it'd be better for him to release most of his mana. She folds her palms, saying with a smile he could study alone. There'd be no problems due to lack of mana. He thanks her, but thinks to himself he doesn't need this. He clenches his hand, thinking his future's getting darker. He needs to study hard. He needs good grades now. Should he transfer to another class where he wouldn't have to use magic? He turns to his friend, asking about their electives. The blue-eyed girl smiles sweetly, saying it's alchemy. Does he want to join? She's interrupted. Li-Han looks worriedly at the prince, who smiles, saying it's only for servants, telling her she's weird. The red-haired girl clenches her fist, asking Leon to move away. He sees the tightly clenched, veiny fist with horror. The green-eyed girl looks happy when called. After a blow of great force from the beauty, he flies a couple meters. She screams he should never ask for a potion again when he's in the hospital again. Li-Han looks at her in horror, knows a few things about fights thanks to fencing lessons at home. Looking at his friend, who's lying in blood, he gives a thumbs up. In his eyes, this blows 10 out of 10. On the way to understanding the basics of alchemy, Ganando complains about whether it's possible to hit like that. She says she'll apologize tomorrow. Li-Han looks at her with suspicion, thinking this isn't the first time. Yoner notices a crowd, saying there are a lot of students, especially from Black Turtle. Li-Han notices how they look at him with disdain, thinking he doesn't care, but it bothers him. He remembers how they were scared, thinking when a commoner meets an aristocrat, usually one of two things happens. The aristocrat doesn't want to mess with him. He walks calmly while they talk about him behind his back, hating him, thinking otherwise they show hostility. He puts his hand on his side, exhales heavily, thinking if he behaves too friendly, it won't lead to anything good. A luxurious beard appears from the side. Li-Han sharply turns his head, hearing the question whether everyone came, thinking it's the professor. He imagines the director and the half-troll, thinking he's already seen two monsters. It'd be normal if someone like that came out. In front of him stands a beautiful but small man, a stately, handsome dwarf. He points at himself, says his name, asks to call him professor. The long-haired man points to the towers, saying he's sure they're all thinking the same. There's such a beautiful school building behind them. Spreading his arms, he asks a rhetorical question about why they gathered on the field without a single desk. The princess raises her hand, suggesting it's to feel the mana of nature. Understanding the power of nature's important for an alchemist. Yurig looks at her suspiciously, raises an eyebrow. She's embarrassed when told this isn't true. The redhead turns to Li-Han. The teacher notices, asking what he's thinking. The dwarf points at him with his strong hand after his answer it's to collect ingredients. This turns out true. He's confused. The blonde looks at him with displeasure while the bearded man with a smile says he's smart. Calls him a first year, correcting himself. Aidenart looks at him with a frown, turns away. Li-Han looks ahead with concern, fakes a smile, thinking to ignore the fact it was an accident, begging her not to compete with him in her head. Yurig imagines many flasks and a crystal, saying they gathered here so they could learn what's needed for alchemy. He turns away, saying he's sure most know alchemy requires an exceptional mind and the ability to control mana. Yoner actively writes, sticking out her tongue while he talks about how the most necessary skill for an alchemist's actually this. After a short pause, the dwarf points at them, shouting at the top of his lungs it's the ability to gather ingredients. The blue-eyed woman turns pale. The princess raises her hand, saying materials can be ordered or grown yourself. Saying gathering ingredients is most important is a little weird. People behind her start whispering, wondering why they do that. It's weird. The professor goes into a rage. The silver-haired girl's embarrassed and scared when yelled at, told she doesn't know anything about the real world. He imagines himself in the field, thinking they wouldn't be able to grow even 10% of required materials themselves. He imagines a stupid adventurer with a mint herb, yelling about how store-bought ones can't be used at all. The reason they travel with adventurers is they're complete fools when it comes to digging up priceless herbs. They turn into real fools. Everyone watches in horror as he tries to catch his breath. He clears his throat, calmly saying an alchemist must be able to obtain materials himself. If they don't learn this, they'll achieve nothing. Sheets appear in their hands. The teacher continues, saying he thinks he explained everything clearly. A twisted mushrooms drawn on the sheets. They're asked to move on to practice. They should all bring this plant. Despite all Eingrad's prestige, there are many unpleasant rumors about it. Li-han sits with a sheet, saying this plant's used to make antidotes. Has she encountered them? One rumors that students die from using magic. She looks at him with a smile, says it's true even before enrollment. Li-han glances anxiously, thinking magic's obviously dangerous, so accidents are possible. This is complete incompetence. How's it possible to send children away? He calmly looks forward, saying this is a dangerous place for two. She lowers her head, saying it's true, there should be at least 3. Is there anyone else from their tower? He imagines the princess, asks about her. He spreads his arms when asked about this boar, whether he thinks she's too difficult. They're just collecting herbs. The red-haired woman points to the side, saying it seems they're already late. The royal person already gathered a team, looking away with a smile. The blondes chatting sweetly with teammates. Li-han bites a rag out of resentment, wondering if there are any students from Black Turtle here, upset they're avoiding him. Yoner tries consoling him, saying she was popular even before entering. She imagines Aiden Art surrounded by sycophants, saying among the royal family she's famous for extraordinary intelligence and talent. She has a special charm that attracts other people. Many people regardless of status follow her. Ganando's sitting in his room drinking a potion, thinking about what they're saying when his friends realized he hadn't found anyone. Li-han looks at his peers' backs, saying everyone already gathered teams and left. Only Black Turtle students remain. He puts his hand to his chin, thinking they hate him. Going together's too dangerous. They need a person who can cover their backs. Something interesting catches his eye. One has a moon badge hanging on his belt. Straight white hair with long ears. A beautiful elf glances at them. He realizes it's her. Li-han's head flashes with that emblem. This is Nilia from Black Turtle, a dark elf from the Shadow Guard Patrol of the northern part of the Empire. He imagines elves jumping on trees, thinking the Shadow Guard consists of experienced hunters and scouts working on the northern mountain range. They know these mountains like the back of their hand. The short-haired girl looks at the task. She squeezes the sheet, smiling, looking away, saying there's nothing complicated. She's hearing about dirty grass for the first time but will find it without difficulty. She leans forward, thinking with a smile the forest's like a playground for her. It's surprising there are so many outstanding students among newcomers. But now's the time to shine. Did they get it? Her ear twitches when called. Li-han and his friend approach, introducing themselves kindly. The pink-eyed girl looks with suspicion, thinking this girl's an aristocrat. Who's that person? What do they need? The red-haired girl puts her hands on her hips, asking if she wants to go with them. The elf glares menacingly, asking what they're planning. She clenches her fists, thinking all nobles are the same. She remembers how they pointed at her during rest. They called them savages. Even when hospitable, they complained they were disrespectful. Why would those guys suddenly be different? Li-han approaches, taking his hand away, saying it's dangerous to walk alone. What if a monster attacks her? She turns away, hisses she doesn't need their help. He continues, asking why. The blonde becomes embarrassed when he asks if she thinks they'd use her as bait and abandon her, thinking how he found out. The huntress becomes embarrassed, saying she wants to go alone. The guy slows her down, asks again. He imagines himself collecting herbs under an ogre's club, saying it's unreasonable. Not only does she not know what could happen, but she also needs to collect and bring herbs. The short-haired girl blushes more when he tells his friend he's sure she's not a stupid girl who thought she could handle everything alone. The pink-eyed girl turns sharply, ordering him silent, agreeing to go while he condescendingly thinks. The redhead looks at him with horror while he extends his hand, saying he knew she's a smart girl, offering to go, thinking about what they teach in their family. The forest thicket flashes before his eyes. Tenacious hands grab a branch. The huntress moves through the forest as if it's her home. Li-han and his friend watch in surprise. The blue-eyed girl puts her hand over her eyes, saying with surprise she's indeed quite experienced. How did he know? He looks away, recalls distinctive features, saying she has well-developed calf muscles. Judging by the calluses on her palms, she must have often shot a bow. This proves she has experience in hunting. Nilia looks down at him with suspicion. She looks at him with even more suspicion, thinking he understood this only by such trifles. The girl carefully looks at her reflection in his eyes, thinking this guy has a strange aura, as if he sees right through people. But then she lets go when he turns to his friend, saying he's joking. She has a shadow guard badge on her belt. He turns to the tsundere with a smile, asking if she heard. She answers negatively. The alchemist asks to slow down. They can't keep up. The pink-eyed girl embarrassedly sits on a branch, asking why she'd do that. She lowers her eyes. There's nothing to say when reminded only Yoner can distinguish herbs. If she's not with them, they won't find them. Li-han's taken aback when she yells, asking what he can do. The redhead understands herbs, she's their guide, but he does nothing. He moves his hand to the side, thinking he really does nothing, saying he's here to protect them. The white-haired girl looks at him, says if you think about it, he's well-built, apparently from a family of knights. Why's he in the blue tower? Leon raises a finger with a smile, presenting the family coat of arms, saying he's from the wardens, thinking this is a chance to get closer. The pink-eyed girl doesn't appreciate this, dumbfounded, loudly asking again. Li-han's ready to burst into tears when his last name's repeated. She anxiously falls onto a branch, asking what the hell it matters he's from a family of magicians, anxiously repeating herself. Li-han turns pale, points at himself, asking what's wrong with his family. He's told usually there are always rumors about famous nobles, but especially strange ones about them. He asks again. The redhead imagines a huge dragon, saying it's their patriarch. During one crazy incident, he burned all living things to ashes with his breath. She imagines a heart in chains with a fairy, saying long ago, their family signed an agreement with ancient spirits. Thanks to this, all members of his family were gifted with magic. But the price was the loss of feelings. She imagines a dent in the middle of the city, saying their family's ruthless. A magician from this family who appeared during the uprising destroyed the entire city. Li-han scratches his head, saying the rumors are really strange. They're presented as monsters that destroy everything as soon as they appear. He raises his hands with wild sadness, palms up, asking if something like that would happen. Would great magicians appear or not? Why are such rumors only about his family? His friend tries calming him, saying he shouldn't worry so much. The blonde looks at him with a smile, saying she hasn't heard of such a thing. Looking at the worried hero, she realizes they're definitely not insensitive. In the middle of the forest, she shouts at him to stop whining and move on. The huntress continues jumping on ropes like Tarzan. Something catches her attention. She jumps to the ground, saying they should wait. Looking into the bushes, the long-eared one suggests they do the same. Noticing tracks on the ground, the girl says someone passed here, a healthy one. She exhales with slight embarrassment, saying judging by shallow traces, he was trying to be unnoticeable. One of the escorts pretends to be interested. The alchemist looks at her with a tortured look, absolutely not interested but trying to be polite. She thinks she's fixated on her own again. She sadly looks away, thinking it's time to get used to it. Everything's fine. She doubts anyone outside her village is interested in such things. But then she's distracted by the words sounding fascinating. Li-han surprises her, leaning toward her, asking if she knows anything else. The pink-eyed girl looks at him with loving eyes, speechless. She becomes active, asking if he's interested. He answers in the affirmative with bewilderment. Why shouldn't it be? The elf becomes more embarrassed, confused, mentioning his family, not understanding how it could be connected with wild nature. She suddenly stands, lowers her ears with a red face, saying in any case, you need to be careful when you notice something like that. She stands near the trail, saying it's not only the size, but also it's difficult to guess where it'll appear from. The beauty looks at her companion, saying she heard all kinds of monsters are hiding inside the academy. She answers in the affirmative. Li-han imagines a gathering of monsters, thinking Eingrad's a land filled with mana. The appearance of many monsters here is inevitable. He's dumbfounded, listening to the story. There are still many monsters that arose during experiments. Rare slugs created from discarded magic potions. He thinks it's definitely not safe here. He's distracted, told they need to change the plan and follow the tracks. This is the only way to reduce the risk of falling into an ambush. Li-han abruptly stands, asks the guide to teach them to distinguish them. She turns away, says it's not easy. Most likely while he's learning, he'll give up halfway. He tries refuting, confidently saying if she helps him, he'll make every effort. The elf lifts her leg, thinks. She turns with a slight smile, showing herself in all her glory, offering to try. It's a hot, sunny day. The team's walking along a trodden path. The redhead brings her hands to the right plant, saying they finally found it. She picks up the mushrooms, saying with regret it's a pity there are only 2. She's sure they'll find more soon. The blue-eyed girl turns, happily suggesting moving on. There's nothing here. But then everyone else already took a fighting stance. She asks why they're silent. The blue-eyed girl's horrified. First, a huge paw appears. It's a huge boar with 4 tusks. The animal rushes toward them to attack. Li-Han crouches lower, frowns, says this isn't an ordinary boar, but one that senses mana. The huntress says to be careful. It's a monster. They stand right in front of danger. Don't dare move. Li-Han reaches for his stick, says although it's dangerous, he has no other weapon. He needs to use magic. The size of magic equipment changes according to the owner's wishes. In his hands is a rather long pole. The elf looks at him with a smile, thinking he really is from a famous family of magicians. She imagines him against the background of the coat of arms, thinking Warden's a family of the greatest magicians of the Empire. He must have studied magic a little before entering school. The big-eared one presses against him, asking if he's sure. The guy with the same uncertainty says he'll try. The pink-eyed one looks at him seriously, says if it doesn't work out, they need to grab the redhead and run as fast as they can. She'll take care of everything. Everyone becomes wildly embarrassed. The alchemist mentions she's so ready to do this to protect them. Sundara only says only she's capable of such a thing. Leon grabs the weapon while the boar rushes at him. Thanks her, says he's counting on her. She watches with anxiety, thinking what kind of magic he'll use to win. The guy grabs the stick tighter. When he was only 10 years old, his mentor held a staff, said although the sword's the king of all weapons, he must know how to handle other equipment. How to control many weapons in any situation. He imagined a swordsman mage. Said only the one who goes this way will be able to concentrate mana in a weapon. This is called the level of aura. The old man watched the little boy's efforts, thought if he knew the truth, he'd be disappointed. Only a few reached such a level. The young master wiped his forehead, exhaled, thinking why he needed to study this. He just wanted to become a mage and work in an office. He looked away, said with a smile he thought training his body and learning to defend himself was pointless. This is enough. The gray-haired man almost shed a tear, turned to the little boy, thinking he's definitely different from other nobles living only in their dreams and crying. He promised to reach the level of using aura, ordered him to do 100 repetitions of stabbing blows. He tried objecting. Li-Han raises one hand back. His eyes light up. He instantly sticks it in the boar's mouth. The girls are completely shocked. The monster shakes, raising its head up. The monster falls dead and stops. The beauties don't understand anything. The whole forest shakes from the cry, this isn't magic at all, just a blow. The Eingrad staff's so strong it can be used in close combat. But it's still impossible to defeat a boar that's become a monster. The only reason this was possible is Li-Han subconsciously used mana. He looks at his hands, doesn't understand. Although it's far from the level of using aura, it's mana that helped him survive. They surround the boar's corpse, shocked. The elf hands the best mage the staff, says he killed it. The redhead exhales heavily while sitting on the ground, asking if this lesson should really be like this. Can't believe students are allowed to go to such places. They're all dumbfounded when they hear a wild scream from the side. Everyone with pale faces looks in the incident's direction. Li-Han says with a tired look there's probably another one. Yoner, closing her eyes, suggests simply running away from the lesson. Nilia, looking scared, asks not to do this. They rush with a huge left. The huntress stands in front of a bush, stops the team. Below, another group's fighting a boar. She continues, saying there are more. Li-Han raises his hand above his head, notices there are quite a lot, suggests watching. She says they'll probably cope. One of those standing below decides, shouts he'll fight him. The bespectacled man picks up his staff, about to attack. The blue-eyed woman anxiously rubs her forehead, asks if this is a descendant of the Dao Kid clan. She imagines a mustachioed man playing chess next to the king, thinking this is a famous family famous for exceptional ability to solve problems. If war wanted, they'd been an advisor for many centuries. She imagines a long-haired man with coins next to the crowned one, thinking another family was the prime minister and treasurer. Li Han watches the battle, thinks since he's from such a family, he can be relied on. It seems he took fencing lessons. Ashen adjusts his glasses, tells his opponent he reads him like an open book. He becomes more aggressive, shouts he won't be able to escape from his predictions. The guy jumps into the beast's blind spot. The green-haired man tries delivering a powerful blow to his back with a stick, but only angers him more by making a big mistake, tries saying his predictions. At that moment, he's sent into a long flight while screaming he was wrong after all. The monster looks at the rest of the group. The princess covers the girls with her hand. She sticks her chest out, although afraid. Li Han's friends look at her in surprise, notice she left, ask what he'll do. He looks at this, stays silent. The blonde stands in the way of a dangerous enemy. She lowers her head, thinks with anxiety everything should be perfect as always. The girl rushes forward, thinks she'll study his breathing during the dash, but something really surprises her. The boar's back's covered in a huge flame that burns him. The princess covers her face with a wand, closes her eyes. The creature falls dead. Li Han picks up a smoking staff, says it's good he didn't notice them. The elf makes him turn by folding her arms, saying he should know how important it is to approach from the windward side. He says he'll count on her advice from now on. The 44th daughter of the emperor looks at him with concern while putting away her wand, recognizes him. She approaches, says she thanks him. He waves her off, says it's not worth it. Leon's friends are perplexed, wondering why they're communicating so formally. Classmates usually address each other informally. But the fact is they were carried away by the atmosphere. The girl lowers her head, says she's obliged to return the debt for today's help. He says with a smile he wants to ask a favor. The blue-eyed girl looks concerned, asks him to continue, thinking what they want from her. The guy with an interested simpleton look asks to tell him if there are any classes where you can easily get good grades, asks about her connections. She looks at him with disdain, not understanding why he needs such information. She's completely confused, doesn't understand what he means, rushes between options. He simply doesn't want to study or is testing her. But Li Han looks as good-natured as possible, asks if she knows where it's easier. They're pressed by wild pressure and a cry he also knows where it's easier. He knows them better than anyone. He looks away, thinks what this ominous premonition is. He remembers how the professor in real life grabbed him by the shoulders, thinks this is a familiar tremor. Remembering how his shoulder was squeezed, he thinks this is a familiar situation. Behind him stands a dwarf with a terrible aura. He comes closer with a wild look, grabs him by the shoulder, frightening him, saying it's alchemy. Li Han thinks this is the lesson in which he met the professor of the master's degree in his past life. He adjusts his clothes with a pale face, thinks he needs to calm down. He looks away, thinks he's no longer an inexperienced student. Li Han looks at him with a soft smile, gentle look, says if you passionately love alchemy, then this is it. He nods when told this is an obvious answer. But he gets scared when told they'll help him love it. He says he'll look at that in other lessons. He's even more upset when they discuss behind his back, even the professors already running after him. He thinks such a thing's usually not envied. The bearded man raises an eyebrow, exhales. He scratches the boar's belly, says it looks like they'll have to finish the lesson for today. Ashen leans on his comrade, surprised when told unfortunately, other groups were unable to meet these boars. Is it on purpose? The dwarf turns, asks anxiously if they thought they were simply sent to collect herbs. He takes his hand away, says today's topic's the unforeseen circumstances they'd have to face while looking for herbs. The old man imagines Li Han fighting the team, says the alchemist must cope with any difficulties and fight back, be it killing, dodging, running away, or hiding. Everyone looks at him with wild displeasure, curses him with insults in their heads. The redhead distracts him while another student shows the middle finger, says this means they don't need the grass. She clutches the collected plants, sadly says they went through so much for her sake, found her together. The professor's wildly surprised, says he didn't think they'd find her. He hugs them, says with a smile the three passed. They're the talented students who should attend these lessons. The bearded man presses closer to Lihan, frightening him with his ominous aura, leaving no choice, saying he especially should attend them. Lihan pretends to be happy, but he's in wild sadness, thinks he's finished. He looks toward the man, squinting his eyes, says he'll try his best. He's always dreamed of studying alchemy. The professor looks at him indignantly but resigns himself. The bearded man looks at him, thinks he's acting quite maturely. At his age, he'd have rebelled. He stands in front of him, says since he killed a boar and found dirty grass, he'll give him a special privilege. The privilege? His house in the forest. The bearded man says he'll allow the student to visit at any time this semester. Lihan looks surprised, asks again, wondering if he wants to make him a maid. He raises his hand to his mouth, says he expressed himself unclearly. The man with the crossbow turns to the young men, asks what in their opinion new students want most. After a pause, food. Lihan looks at him with a frown. He continues, saying perhaps they're not thinking about this now. Breaking off the sentence, says in a week. The man imagining food thinks how hard it is to survive on such food. Remembering the children of nobles, he thinks how hard it'll be for them. Remembering the food in his house, he says his house is full of fresh food. He even has spices and vegetables he collected himself in the forest. Lihan frowns, hesitantly begins the sentence, saying what that means. Imagining shelves with a huge number of dishes, he thinks this is a pass to a buffet. The student shakes the bearded man's hand, says he knew alchemy's wonderful. He replies he's starting to like the boy more and more. The student stands at the forest edge in front of a dead boar, expresses dissatisfaction with the teacher. Lihan walks away from the crowd, says he can say he didn't expect this, but he's not even surprised. He grins, looks away, says now's the most important thing.